So what I would like to do now is I would like to spend briefly a bit on understanding about habits, how bad habits form, and we start to move towards techniques and practices of how we can change habits. Okay, so when we look at habits, how do habits form? Basically, let's rewind. Whatever decisions we take are based on our state of mind. For example, if we are in a dreamy state of mind, our decisions are a little bit blurred. They are not as clean, as clear as if we are in a waking state. So the state of our mind influences the decision we take. If our mind is tired, our decisions will be unclear and maybe not so productive. And if we feel awake, if we feel centered within ourselves and in a calm state of mind, we are much more productive in our day-to-day living and what we do. So what influences our state of mind is, in fact, the brain. Let me just clarify, what is the difference between brain and mind? Very important to understand, the brain is like the hardware of your computer. And that hardware needs a software to make it work. So the hardware is the brain. The software is the mind. The brain is an organ, but the mind isn't an organ. So when we are falling into bad habits, what happens is, like, bad habits is we do something repeatedly again and again and again, and that in the brain starts to form very specific neuronal pathways. It's like when you walk through the bush, okay? The first time you walk through the bush, as you step through, you may sort of need to step on grass and basically get some twigs out of the way, move the branches out of the way. But if you keep repeating the same path, it will almost naturally become a pathway in itself without any obstructions. So this is what happens with habits. So there are certain neurological pathways that have formed over time that go into an automatic mode. Our brain goes automatically, when I feel like that, I'm going to do this. Right. So this comes mainly when the mind is in a tired space, when our mind is in a clouded space, when we can't think clearly, when we are stressed, even though I don't like to use the word stress, because in a way we can't hide, we can't run away from stress, because it's just a way of how we cope with stress. That's the big question mark. So, okay, let's say we are in a stressed state of mind, we are tired, mentally drained, and this is when the automated system starts to kick in. So that means our brain goes, okay, I have worked very hard and I'm really stressed. I deserve to eat something wonderful. So I'm going to go and give myself an almond croissant. I deserve that. Each time when we do that, we actually keep reinforcing these neuronal pathways. Okay, there's no judgment on this. Please, we are not talking, this is good, this is bad. We are just trying to understand the mechanism that lies, that underpins our way of how we think, that is responsible of why we find it sometimes easier to meditate and sometimes more difficult to meditate. Okay, coming back to the situation with the minds. So in an ideal world, we want the mind and the thoughts that rise from the mind, from a pure, calm state of mind, to actually then allow us to see the bigger picture, allow us to change our habits. So what I mean by this in plain text, very frank, is how can we expect for us to change our habits if we do not create the space for these changes to occur? How can we expect change to happen if we don't allow the space for this change to occur? So number one takeaway is create space for the mind to experience a broader state of awareness, a more expanded state of awareness, which lays the foundation for us to start changing habits. So I've said this, I think, on JC's video the other day. I do not necessarily believe in positive thinking as such, okay? Because what it does is, it's like I have got certain neuronal pathways in my brain that tell me I'm not good enough, okay? These pathways are reinforced, and basically my mind comes from a colored state of awareness that takes this notion of me not being good enough as a reality. Okay, then I come and say, oh, I'm wonderful, I'm an extraordinary being, the whole world is my oyster, start to be positive. So what that does, it gets you into a conflict. It creates even more stress because we miss one crucial element. And that crucial element that we miss in this experience is not, we need to feel it, we need to see it, to sense it. Yes, that's a fraction of it. But even before that, what is missing is for our mind to go into a space of expansiveness, to go into neutral gear. Once the mind is in neutral gear, we can then visualize the experiences. We can then go into feeling the sensation. We can then see the outcome of us driving a Ferrari. Not that I'm into driving Ferraris. In fact, I don't care about cars. Well, I don't care, it's not true. It gets me from A to B, and I'm very grateful for that. But you know what I'm trying to say here. So create the space for change to occur. So do not expect change to happen if you don't create the space for that to appear. So why now is it so hard to change bad habits? Because on a physiological level, you might argue, and I can say this as a health professional, it might be lack of vitamin B or magnesium could be the cause of why we can't change habit, and why we sort of go to the fridge and pick up that bar of chocolate if we are stressed. But at that time, the more often we feed unhealthy messages, the more deeper we basically engrave that into our brain. So it is difficult to change bad habits unless we find ways of getting our brain into a neutral gear. So I'm introducing here another concept, which is the concept of mental obesity. What do I mean by that? If we want to lose weight, if we want to detoxify, we cannot just do this on a physical level if we don't do this on an emotional level, but also here I'm talking about mental obesity on the level of the mind. We need to first get rid of the mental weight for us so that the body can shift the weight. We need to be able to work with our emotional body. We need to address the emotional constipation for things to shift and change. In fact, the true pandemic is emotional constipation and mental obesity. That's the true thing that we are facing with. And everybody is basically struggling with that. So it is about dealing with our emotions, creating the space on the level of the mind for changes to occur. And over the course of the 6 weeks, I will be introducing you to a technique which I call the OBC technique, obesity. So dealing with obesity through the OBC technique. And I'm going to go and get us into practicing the step 1 of this technique right now. So in order for us to do that, just take a few seconds to center yourself. So close your eyes. Take a few deep breaths in. And slowly breathe out. Without any particular pattern, just really breathe out. As you breathe out, you feel your body start sinking into the sofa, sinking into the chair, wherever you are sitting or wherever you are. And now I'd like you to just go back and think about a scenario that throws you out of sync very easily. So what is it that you don't need to mention it, just in your mind's eye, just what pops up first that sort of is obstructing you from staying centered and staying calm? What scenario would that be? Okay, give me some thumbs up if you have got something in your mind, roughly. Cool. Now, how does that make you feel? Okay, I'm asking you, does it make you feel anxious? Does it make you feel angry, depressed, upset? So go into the feeling of it. When you are in that scenario, does it make you frustrated? For example, for me, what comes up would be frustration when I connect to that. You have got the scenario, you are somehow linked into the sensation of feeling whatever you feel. For me, it's frustration. It could be anger, fear, anxiety, depression, lack of energy, lack of self-love, whatever it is. And I want you to repeat loudly. You are all muted, so nobody will hear. But I would like you to repeat the following. I, and then you say your name. I, Tomaz, observe myself feeling ... and you fill in the dots. For me, frustration. So I'll repeat again. I, Tomaz, observe myself feeling frustrated. And then you take a deep breath in. So you breathe in for 4. You hold your breath briefly for 2 counts, and then you breathe out for 6 counts. I will explain what happens later. So just bear with me. Repeat again. I, Tomaz, observe myself feeling frustrated. Breathe in for 4. Hold for 2. Breathe out for 6 counts. Just repeat a couple of times in your own time. Okay, just open your eyes again. What have you noticed? Maybe may I invite a couple of people to come in and unmute yourself. Just raise your hand and then you can unmute yourself and then share what you have noticed. Yes, Marlene? Mary, if you would like to unmute yourself.
My feeling was agitation, and making the proclamation and the breathing actually calmed me down considerably.
Amazing.
Yeah,
Amazing.
It was really amazing.
So that's the beauty of a technique. See, a technique, thank you so much for sharing. A technique means you do something with a calculative outcome. So something that you will have a specific outcome. I need to use my glasses. My goodness. Ron, may I ask to unmute yourself, please?
Yeah, I felt similar. It was just like it seemed to be like I observed it, and then it slowly become a distant thing in the past.
Yes, amazing. Thank you. These were just 2 examples of what happened within a fraction of a second. You do not need to go and, for example, go and meditate for half an hour. Sometimes if you can, amazing, that's wonderful. But we are often in situations where we observe a scenario, where we observe within ourselves that we are out of sync and out of rhythm and out of alignment. So the first task that I'm going to ask you to do throughout the week, and please, if you feel like, make a note, and of course the recording of this seminar will be available by noon tomorrow UK time, and so you can go back anytime. And we have got our Telegram discussion group. So I'd like you to throughout the week observe yourself when you feel out of alignment, and then use the breath. It could be in a conversation with your mother-in-law. So you are talking to your mother-in-law, and whatever she is irritating you, in your mind's eye, as she keeps talking and telling you, you haven't done this, you are not good enough, why have you done this way? You should make up the beds like that. Why did you put too much salt in the soup? Anyway, I'm just, like I've gone through drama school, so please forgive me. I'm a drama queen if I want to be a drama queen. Now, where was I? Observe, yes. So go and notice when you observe yourself being out of alignment, and repeat in your mind, I, Thomas, observe myself feeling ... and just use your breath. Now the key here is, and you probably have heard this many times, but I like to share this again. When we are under stress, the first thing that goes is our breathing. Our breathing becomes shallow, and we feel the pressure and tension in our chest. Everything starts to tighten up. So if we elongate our out breath, our body goes from fight and flight into rest and digest mode, which means from a sympathetic nervous system to parasympathetic nervous system. And this is a physiological response. It is not something that we imagine in our mind. It is, as soon as we breathe slowly, our out breath is slower than our in breath. Automatically, we go into more relaxed space. So what happens in that space? Exactly, we create space. And by creating space, we are creating opportunities to shift our habits, to shift our behaviors. Does that make sense? Cool.